What's up, Ray?
What's up, Quint?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Well, welcome to the session. I kind of put together this show like for a couple different reasons. Like one reason I thought it would be dope to like archive our lives for like future generations, just to
hmm
kind of like see what we're thinking, what's on our mind, like just in this present moment. And just sort of have like a more realistic view of what life is like. I thought it would just be cool, like if our grandparents or parents could do something like this, like in their late 20s, early 30s, just sharing what life's like.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, usually it's just like, just like a fluid conversation about whatever's on the mind. I'll probably just like ask you a couple questions, just like,
Get
I
the
don't
ball
know,
rolling.
just general. But,
Yeah.
yeah, man, welcome to session.
All right. So this is like separate from your like typical podcast episodes, like a separate series.
Yeah, yeah. This is like a new show. So I guess I have like the one answer yoga, which is really like yoga centric at the end of the day.
Okay.
And this is just more meant to like the bio I usually put or the description is like just my point of view of the real world or real life. So
Okay.
it's meant to just be like more realistic, and just
Yeah, I like that.
show how like how I don't know, like how we really are, like outside of like the stereotypes of Americans or just whatever, like really what we think about.
All right. This is like
So
one
yeah, what's
answer
new with you, man?
life.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, everything's been going good. I'm getting back into creating and making a bunch of different stuff graphically, in
Mm.
school and personally, and just living this dad life, you know. Yeah.
What's like you got two things there. What's like what's something that's like come to mind in your dad life and what's something that's come to mind like creatively? Like, I don't know, I'm sure you're like having new breakthroughs or just like you're progressing in both fields. Like
hmm
what's like, changed for you as you look over maybe this last year or something?
With dad life, I feel like every week there's a new challenge, like because they constantly growing, constantly new, learning new things and having more questions.
Mm.
I would say lately with Raiden, um,
How old's Raiden?
Raiden 7.
7. Yo.
Yeah, Raiden wants to be more independent now. He wants to be his own young man. He wants to show his that he can do things like without me, that he can like handle himself.
Mm.
So it been kind of like trying to trust him with that, like that he can handle it. Like I trust him to be able to, but also letting him feel my support, that he can fall back on me too when he needs to. Um,
Hmm.
with
What's something he's
7,
trying to be more independent with?
uh, mm, well, number one, he's got a mind of his own, very emotional. So, for example, we was at his cousin's house, his cousin Grace and my cousin too, and they were playing and kind of reminded me of like, us, like me, you, Isaiah, Madama, like they gotten
Yeah.
really close over the past year or so, like they're locked in. But they were play fighting and they got a little rough and Raiden got upset. So he was like, I don't want to play anymore. You're not my friend anymore. Um, and I kind
Dang.
of got to see him, kind of establish a boundary and stand on that. You know what I mean? Like outside of me, outside of Grayson, his parents, like he was just, this is what it is for me and that's it.
Wow.
And
Mm.
I was like, just did he say sorry? He's like, yeah. And then Grayson's like, yeah, I said sorry. He's still mad and da da da. And I'm like, you don't want to forgive him? He's like, no. Like,
Dang.
I need to go outside, get some. I want to go outside to the backyard and get some air.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, who are you? And then they both walk to the back. Grayson follows him to the back. I hear them talking and I go back there. I'm like, "Oh, you still want your time or you want your space?" And he was like, "No, we're good now." So I kinda got to see him go through the whole, motion of it. But he kinda like the situations like that is a good example because he just has his own mind, his own way of handling things and teaches me a lot of times of like, you know, it's so simple that it's deep, like, "Well, why don't we just do it like that? What's stopping
Yeah.
us from just doing that?"
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know any other, so it kinda brings things, it simplifies some things where you're like, "You know, why don't we just do that?" Like, "Why
Yeah.
am I overcomplicating this thing?" Um, he has a lot of integrity, which I respect. He has a lot of, he's very honest, he's very, caring. So, he leads with that in a lot of different situations where I might be, how we grew up. You had a little bit of a shorter leash, or you're not used to just you being able to just go out and do or
Yeah.
even say certain things in a certain way.
Yeah, for sure.
So trying to give him that freedom of like, not being so on it about that kind of stuff and letting him find himself a little bit more. I think it's really made our relationship blossom a lot more, you know, because I trust him to be who he is and he trusts me to be who I am.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's the best part when it's sorta like you can look at your son or just really anybody and just be like, I know at the end of the day, like, if you do something that might be quote unquote bad, it's not because you're bad, it's just because that's just how you're processing this experience right now, kinda like being able to trust them to know, like, deep down, like, yeah, they do have the capacity to sorta, like, survive in a way that they were kind of born and
yeah.
molded to be able to handle themselves well. So, it's like, that's really dope to be like, "Alright, I already know," like, you said he's 7, and it's like, you can tell, like, alright, he can stand his ground, but, like, I'm not ready to, like he's not gonna push himself to be in a position to where he's not uncomfortable, at least not right now.
Right.
So, that's nice. So, yeah, what's
Mm,
new with 7? And how old 7?
mm. 7's 2.
7's 2.
7's 2. 7 is a little baby genius. Yeah. She is she's similar to Raiden in some ways, but she definitely is her own person. She's very independent, but like has a fervor about her, very like this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do, is I'm going to get it. She's very clear about that. She, you know, um has a
Yeah,
fire in her. Like she definitely has a
yeah.
fire in her. Very you know, very matter of fact the way she acts, but it's sweet at the same time, very gentle and affectionate. Uh but yeah, I say what's new for her, what I'm learning with her, I would say is more, I guess, being just more available, you know. Like
Mm,
I'm learning things about emotions and like being open to her mom, Bree, and
yeah,
her in a different way, like with Raiden it's more at least how you approach it. It's more mental, it feels like you have to, you're thinking everything, one time I had this moment that ties around to 7 because I was telling Raiden not to do something because if he do this thing, this was gonna happen. He's like, he's like upset and he's like, "Oh, not everything's a teachable moment." And
no way. That's so
yeah,
great.
and he said that when he was 6, but it caught me off guard. It caught me off guard because he was right, like, and I feel like I get caught in that with him a lot where I'm trying to constantly correct, like, "Oh, make sure you do it this way." So trying to protect
Yeah,
him in the
that's
future.
true. But life can be
Um,
fun too.
right. And he's
Yeah,
like, it's not the time for that all the time. I think 7 helps me be a little bit more present and a little bit more available in the moment. Um, it's kind of helped me show up in a moment more and not be so. I kind of take that with her and not try to be so like, all right, this is I'm trying to protect you in every little thing, or, don't do it this way, do it this way. Cause if you do it this way, this is going to happen. Like, I don't want to kind of come with
yeah,
that approach. So she helps with that because she really don't give you a choice. She kind of like, she wouldn't have it any other way, you know? So, and it's helped me to understand even her mom more, my mom more.
Yeah.
Um, so just seeing the fragileness, the gentleness that she has as well of like she's trusting me in a different way, not just what I'm doing or like, it's like how I'm saying it, how I'm approaching it, how I'm like acting, not just with her, but in front of her. Like it has a much more profound effect than with Raiden, how he grew up. Like it sticks to her a little bit more.
When's her birthday or what's her sign and what's Raiden's? You don't have to say like their birthday, but what signs are they? I'm curious.
7 is a Pisces, and Raiden is a Scorpio.
Okay, cool. Now it's
Yeah.
interesting because like you have a very just like just like an intellectual sort of approach. Like, you're all, everybody's got feelings, obviously, but you
Mhm.
definitely do have like a natural inclination to be more like analytical, more thoughtful, kind of like and it's interesting. I was listening to Sadhguru's book, like Inner Engineering recently, and in there he says like and I'll try to like use a little bit different language, but he says that feelings and thoughts are all thoughts. So it's sort of like like when we think of thoughts, we really think of like a visual audio.
Mhm.
Think of like a memory. It's like, all right, what are they saying? What it looking like? Or like, you're like using logic. You're like, okay, if this happens and this happens, you're sort of using your words and what you can visualize. But the other half of the thought is the feeling it evokes, right? So it's sort of like just like you said with like our mothers and like our wives and stuff like that, like or just like in general, like it's all thoughts, but it's sort of like, you know, it's two sides of the same coin, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it's like, you can communicate something, you can communicate the same thing either using like what we call thought as in using words, logic, like trying to like visual audio or
Mhm.
feelings like the sensation that comes along with it. So it's like you could and I think that's like really like the goal in life is sort of to blend the two where it's like, all right, in this situation, I got to use more of like the deduction and more like, okay, if this happens, think of it this way, like kind of like talk through things and be very precise in the language. But then on the other side, it's sort of like the other half of that thought is the feeling it evokes. And it's like equally important. And, some of us like obviously like some of us are much more driven by like how things feel because the way they feel is is what makes sense, I guess. And I was thinking to myself, like, especially with like, I don't have kids, but I got a dog and like I have a female dog, Kimber, and I got a male dog, Toph. And like with them, I see how like Kimber, she just has a very clear direction on what it is that she wants. Like she's like, all right, I want to do this, I want to have this. Like she has like she has more boundaries, more standards, more things that she has just more like constraints, I guess, or she has more requirements. This man Toph is like, as long as he's fed and he gets like rubbed on his belly like 2 times, like he's good. He has no like extra rules. He doesn't have like emotional complexity in a certain way. He's very logical too. So like I know there's just dogs, but it is very interesting how like I sort of learned a similar lesson where it's like, all right, it's not always about like how you well, and it's funny because with dogs, they don't even know English. I'll be talking to Toph. I'm like, bro, like, I know you know what I'm saying. Like, I'm like,
Mhm.
stop eating, like, whatever. But a lot of the times, like with Kimber or whatever, it's not even about what you say. It's about like the sensation that like the feeling that I bring with what I say is what almost matters more than what I say itself. And but no, that's dope. I mean, that's good to see, and it's also nice just to see like the age gap and the difference in your life, like the
Mhm.
difference in the situation. So like, what has been, what have you like learned with like living, being with Bree and like kind of this like new chapter in your life?
I would say communication's been like massive, you know what I mean? Figuring out um it's brought different changes for each of us. We on different journeys with that, where there might be days where I'm coming from work and I'm exhausted and she's exhausted, but in a different way from dealing with 7 all
Mm,
day. And
mm,
we might want different things, like I might want connection because I've been kind of surface level at work all day.
yeah,
And she might want some space because she's been like, seven's like on her leg all day. So sometimes, I think being clear about where we're at and what we need has been a big thing. And I've been finding a lot of times that, you know, chips kind of expose the things you got to work on. So even at
yeah,
work, um, I might find myself going through a similar challenge, uh,
mm,
of maybe like I'm not like I could have said something there where I didn't, or maybe I just decided to like had nothing to do with me, you know what I mean, or something like that.
yeah,
So I think that's one way. But also to on the flip side, I think having giving each other grace, like
mm,
we're both changing constantly, we both growing in different ways constantly. So giving each other grace in that way of you know, what might have what might have been something for me a year ago, 2 years ago might not mean the same thing for me now.
yeah, yeah,
Um and vice versa. So I think giving each other grace with that and like we all human, we all make mistakes, we all trying to, be the best version of ourselves we can be. But I think, remembering that we're human and that we not just like stuck in these roles or stuck in what we're doing, like whether it's day to
mm,
day tasks like work or your parenting or lovers, whatever the case may be. So
yeah,
I feel like she's done a good job of reminding me of that. And um I think I've been in that more. I think that kind of feeds into my creativity a little bit more of tapping into that a lot more of trying to express that through that, you know? S Now I kinda try to, focus on things that, that I'm really experiencing in real time, like taking those moments that I was talking about with 7, making me more present,
yeah,
and using that creatively at the same time of like, if I was watching a movie, maybe I'll make something based on that
yeah,
movie. So when I make it, I can remember a certain time period, you know what I mean? Or having conversations with me about communication might make me think about, how important it is in general and in all its facets. And maybe I'll make something involving that, or maybe I'm just a little more aware of it when I leave the house, like how important it is and how might need to show up here. Or even like, it's sometimes not even just you saying something or not saying something, kind of like what you said before, but how you're saying,
yeah,
what you're coming with. So even paying more attention to that of like, sometimes I'm doing that and I might not hear it the same way this person's
mhm,
hearing it because that's not
mm,
my intention.
yeah,
So I think she's done a great job of like bringing my attention to that. So when I'm at work or when I'm anywhere, I'm not offending someone accidentally or,
yeah.
missing the mark, you know?
Yeah, it's like those little things that we don't even notice. It's like we might say something that's just kind of like because our grandmother is who's it's like we come from a lineage of folks that kind of speak a little sharp sometimes, just kind of naturally, or just like have like a heavy emphasis on being like crudely honest.
Yeah.
But you know, especially Bree, like Bree, like is a specialist in sort of like that, like speaking in a way that is, like, soothing to the ear to, like, anybody who hears it, you know what I'm saying? And,
Uh-huh.
like, especially you, it's like half of your battle is, like, in a way, sales. It's like, you're the creative and you have this, but, like, to help you be more well-rounded and support, like, the family even better, it's like those little things, like, why would I pick Ray over someone else? It's like, okay, well, the way that the when I speak to Ray, when I'm around Ray, the way that he makes me feel is at ease, or it's like it makes me feel like productive, or it makes me feel like on top of the world. And it's like that's that's so beautiful how like, you know, your relationship with Seven, with Bree, like, can carry over to your every day-to-day life, and, like, I think it's gonna, like, breed some, bear so many, like, positive fruit, and, like, on that note, sort of similar when I was with Safa, I was in construction, so it was always benefited to, like, kinda be, like, just, like it's like a hyper masculine environment pretty much, so
Mhm.
there was always a lot of pressure on me in the beginning of my career to kinda just, like, be on top of that, especially if I'm the boss, I gotta be like, whatever, more on top, but as I got into a relationship, I kinda realized that it was, like, the compassion, the nuance, it was the kinda, like, the eye contact or, um, just, like, how I even opened up the conversation or opened up the experience, how I would, like, kinda shift the language. That little bit would be the difference between someone doing a favor for me and someone not doing a favor for me, you know what I mean? Like, someone, like,
Right.
charging me extra or someone not, just because, I didn't talk to them the way the other superintendents might have talked to them or whatever.
Mm.
So, um, it's also ironic too, like, a lot of the bosses that I had, they had, like, 2, 3 girls, 3 you know what I mean? And it was like, you could to me, it was like and they said this themselves, like, yeah, it was like they had to learn these lessons on, like, how to temper how they spoke, but how that helped them be more personable, be more successful. And,
Mhm.
I also realized something too, like, entrepreneurs they're sorta in that middle spot of, like, creative. It's like the engineer, the executive, they might not care that much about, like, too much emotional awareness in the conversation, and I guess you could say, like, on the strictly artistic type, they might care a lot more of that, like, emotional intelligence in the conversation, but on the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial kinda thing, it's sorta like that balance. It's you're a practical creative, you know what I'm saying? You're doing both sides. Sorta like that CEO, but you're doing the executive action, but you're also like the main creative director. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, like, the women in our life really are like beneficial on teaching us how to be more well-rounded in like how we speak. Yeah,
Yeah. I
cool.
would push my only thing with that has been, like, I value that and I am working towards, like, getting better with that, but I do value being
Yeah,
practical. I do
yeah,
value p um, a plan, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, yeah.
I could get stuck on a plan and be really frustrated when it goes
Yeah.
outside of what we already established what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
So, I
yeah.
could get stuck on that and, but I value that, like, it's not something I'm like,
Yeah, I'm not
So, I
folding
think
on it, but yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
so I think the challenge has also been, yeah, I definitely wanna show up better in those moments because I don't wanna miss those moments, but I think there are times when, you know, I it's a value to think ahead and to plan for that and to because when it
yeah.
doesn't go right and you didn't have a plan for this, I think you'll get the same amount of criticism and blame, like, "Why
Mhm.
wasn't you on top of this?" So I
Yeah,
think it kinda is like a double-edged sword sometimes with that, because you know, if you're not on that and you're kinda just going through the motions and you're a little too in the moment, you might what they say, it's like missing the forest for the trees kinda thing, like,
yeah,
you're kinda stuck in there, so sometimes that's been my challenge of, like, I naturally think in a certain way, and I think about the future, I'm thinking about how I'm gonna plan this out a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, what may pop up,
yeah,
what I may need to do, how I may need to move, what may need to happen. So I think it's a value to that. I'm not willing to just say, nah, you shouldn't do that, especially as a young man. I don't know. I wouldn't teach my son that.
nah, nah,
I wouldn't be like, hey, lead with that. I wouldn't say lead with being, life is a trade off sometimes.
yeah,
Life is a trade off. If you want to be present, fully present the way you need to be, sometimes you might miss, and especially in your early stages of learning, you might miss the mark on those bigger things, like you got to find a way to balance that. Um, And I think that's what I'm right in the middle of finding out. Like, how do I figure out like a middle ground of,
Yeah.
hey, I want to meet you there and I want to be in that moment. And at the same time, there's some bigger stuff going on that I think that if we're thinking this way might cloud our judgment. We might not see the whole thing, like how it's unfolding, so it's
No, that's
challenging.
certainly true. It's like I feel like as human beings, we all live on a spectrum, right? Where it's sort of like, all right, some of us are more planners, some of us are less planners. And I think usually what ends up happening is like we just get paired with typically people who are opposites to us in some way. Like we're similar in a way, obviously, like we have like similar interests, like us and our partners, or us and our friends, or business partners, just whoever we're partnered with and in relationship with.
Mhm.
Like, just by law of comparison, like, someone's gonna be more than the other, someone's gonna be less than the other in one category, like, at any given moment, in any given circumstance, right?
Yeah.
Not a judgment call, but just how it is, and so, I'm like, yeah, like, I know people who it's like their brains haven't been set up in a way, and also their reward system and also their career path hasn't rewarded planning. Like, I think about, like one thing I think about is, like, serving, for example, where it's sorta like, you sort of, like, have to be present the whole time, at least while you're on the ship. I'm thinking, like, in the moment. You can have a plan, like, "I'm gonna wear this before I go to work," and, like, it's, like, partial planning, obviously, but sort of just being in flow. But then there's also like jobs like opposite where like my job was to create the schedule and update the schedule. So it was like solely planning. But what I realized, it was like sort of this like ebb and flow between planning and not planning, where it's like, all right, we have our time to plan. It's like whatever, like, before we do the activity, it's like, okay, you have an hour to plan, you do your little plan. The plan sort of orders your steps, and it also gives you a sense of confidence and, like, conviction that, like, this can get done. That's one of the main benefits of coming up with a plan, is it helps you imagine yourself being successful. But inevitably, like in construction, it'd be like you have this whole plan. It'd be like, all right, you're gonna go and do this, then this guy's gonna come 2 hours after you, then this guy, and then the day comes and it rains, and then this dude's sick, and then this next guy is like, this next guy broke his kneecap on his way home from work yesterday, like,
Mhm.
and so that was the other part of the game. It was like you created this plan. How quickly can you make a new one? And it's sort of like I think that's the muscle that like is meant to be matured. Is like, you got this plan, all right. We didn't make this plan, and I know like, I know you're a Leo, so like, the general like made the plan and it's like, all right, we're not, like it's not being met, like, well, people didn't do their job, and now the plan's not getting met, right? And then
Yeah.
sometimes the mind can kind of dwell on that. But ultimately, God's in control, so regardless, if the plan was meant to be followed, it would be being followed. And then, so that's kind of how I've wrestled with it, where it's like, it would be irresponsible for me not to do my due diligence and plan, like plan out this day, think about this, like, so I can order my steps. But as soon as, this variable in the plan is wrong, that it's like, okay, how can I readjust things? How can I reorder the playlist and make things work so we still right there? And
Yeah.
I think like, 'cause we don't even know how strong we're supposed to really get or be, or how good at planning we're supposed to be, and that's what I kind of looked up to with the OGs in construction, was that they were masters at that. They'd be like, "All right, well, we still got all these guys here, and the crane didn't show up or whatever. We can't do all this work that we thought we were gonna do, but we're not gonna send all these guys home, so we gotta find something else for them to do that's productive, and we gotta do it in 10 minutes," you know? And, but at the same time, you can still hold people accountable, and I think that's the question. It's like, how do you hold people accountable most efficiently? Like, I think you said something about rating where it's like, you rating doesn't respond to like some level of harshness, like you said, because that like that level of sensitivity, and like, whereas like it's almost like you're just being I don't know, but I'm like, I have friends that are like this where it's like, "You're just being disrespectful, I'm not listening to what you're saying." You know, even if
Mhm.
you're right, you're not saying it in a way that respects my sovereignty. And so, that's what I found, whereas, like, with some people, I can be a little bit more direct and a little bit more, like, harsh, you know, whatever, and they'll see it as love, and then on the other hand, some people might see that harshness as, like, aggression, and then I'm like, "Okay, how do I, like, talk to this person and use, like, compassion or, like, use, like still be direct, but use, like, a different type of language, evoke a different feeling to kinda get the end result that, like, is beneficial to all of us."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
something
it takes yeah, no, I agree, I agree. It definitely takes a level of, patience and grace, 1,000%, you know, because I think I have a little more I would have I'm dealing with the challenge with my wife, you know what I mean? With another guy, I don't know if I'd be as patient,
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
say,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
That's so true, dude.
yeah,
That's
like,
so true.
she'd be like, "Oh, you didn't say that right." I'm not I'm not I'm not listening to
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it'd be real quick. It's like, "I got 6 words for you." After that, like
Right, no, no. No, you don't wanna hurt your lady. You don't wanna it's never your goal, it's never your intention, you do care, you don't wanna if you're missing it, what works for you, you don't wanna miss what works for that person, but for another
Yeah,
guy,
yeah,
nah, I think it's more because we know how we are, we know we're action based, right? Like, if I'm doing the things that over time too, that, it shows how I feel about you. Me talking to you sternly, and then pay attention. I think as a guy, it's important to think about the context of which we're talking about. If I'm saying something and it's to your direct benefit, I'm loving you already. I'm already showing you that I care about you and I don't want you to fall short, or I don't want you to be led astray or something like that. So clearly, and if I've already shown, I've already through time already shown what you mean to me. If I'm not saying it the right way now, maybe it's because I'm frustrated with you not showing up for yourself. Maybe I'm disappointed. Maybe like
yeah,
whatever the reason may be.
yeah,
I would leave the emotional aspect of dealing with that to your partner. But with it's your guy friend or something like that, I would think, that's why I say it's important through time and the context you're talking about. Because if I'm just barking at you, but it's nothing, but if I'm like, man, why you didn't, go for that job, or why are you being lazy, or why are you seem unmotivated? Why are you said you was
yeah,
going to do that thing and you're not showing up to do that thing? Yeah, I think I'm not gonna. I'm invested. Like I'm clearly
yeah,
invested. So that's not me
yeah.
saying I don't. You might not like how I'm saying it, but you know, it is what it is.
Don't let it be true. Don't let it be
Right,
true.
right. Yeah, but with your partner, no, you ain't gonna do that. You don't wanna, you don't want to offend. I know you don't want to offend your friend either, but I think you just have a more tough love approach with your guy friend, and I
Yeah,
don't know if I think is important to like show up in that way. I think so sometimes you need it, man. Especially in our community, sometimes you know where the fathers aren't around as much or something like that. You might need that stern,
yeah.
hey, what are you doing, man? Like, what are you doing? You
You
know,
slipping.
right? And I think it also how you, as I said, it matters how you deal with it, because usually when you saying it to someone, you wouldn't mind it yourself. You know what I mean? So if I'm
Yeah,
saying it to you, I clearly wouldn't be offended if you did it to me. So, I'd want someone to hold me accountable, to let me know if I'm falling short of who I say I am. I wouldn't want anybody. You don't got to say that pretty. You know what I mean? Just let it be
yeah,
what it is. As long as it's the truth, it doesn't really matter to me how you do it. I just want it to be true, and I want it to be coming from a place of love. It doesn't necessarily have to be said with sugar for it to be coming from a place of love. Because
yeah,
especially now, me and you, our moms have said plenty of stuff. Our family has said plenty of stuff that we know. Your mom love you. You know your father loves you, but there's a time and a place for everything. Sometimes you need discipline. You know,
$1,000,000%,
and
1,000,000%.
discipline's not going to be. how you want it to be all the time. It's gonna be what it is. So
Yeah, I think, like, with Safa and I feel like some of our most productive conversations have been when she's been, like, very direct. We've been very direct on, like, what I need to straighten up on, what would be like, because it's like, she's looking at me exteriorly with the lens of love, with, like, just what she's been taught, and she's been taught, like, just different things that's, in a way, it's almost like she looks at my blind spots, you know? So
mhm, and that's love.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure, and I think, like, sometimes there's a temptation with, like, the ego or whatever, it can make you wanna resist that or, like, feel like, you sometimes even with that intentionality and even with that planning, sometimes I'll be planning without necessarily her input, even subconsciously, like, with important things, I might be doing it, but, like, just like naturally, like, you just wake up in the morning, you just start thinking about whatever's gonna happen, and you don't always consult or you can't always, like, tell exactly what she might think, but then, so I came up with this plan, or I'm trying to enact this plan or this idea, and, I run it by her, and she has this, like, whole depth of input or just insight based on what I'm saying, and so it's funny you brought up communication. For me, communication has for this last year with us has been like an emphasis on sort of timing on when to have like what type of conversation because it's like, obviously as you know, like depending on what time of the month it is, depending on how stressful work is, depending on how everybody's been sleeping or working out or how we've been eating, it's like you only have so much bandwidth for certain conversations, And certain times of the day, it's like, let's say like we have to have a money type of conversation, but like we both worked, people just pulled up. Kimber's barking at some people. Yeah. Um, but if we just had like we need to have a money conversation. Maybe there's like a couple bills due in a couple days, but we both work long shifts and it's late at night and it's sort of like something that we can't really talk about. And it's like, all right, like, something's important that has to be taken care of, but the timing isn't lining up. Like, how do I best approach that? Right. Cause sometimes I know like forcing a conversation when it's not meant to happen, that that can that can lead to a longer slash less efficient conversation than just having it at the right time. Or like even, like, working out certain issues where it's like, okay, if, like, there's, like, a discrepancy of some sort, alright, they're probably gonna start partying, so we might have to cut it a little bit short, but, like, yeah, sometimes there might be a discrepancy or something of some sort, and it's more so figuring out, like, alright, is it worth, like, kinda, like, talking through it right now? What level of depth should we address it now? How should we, like, address it in the future? Like, should we sit and, like, pray on it first, like, together? Like, maybe we do, like maybe we like, go on a walk, light a J, or, just do certain things. Like, what's the best way? And I think that's been really fun for me as like figuring out like, okay, this is a tougher conversation. Let's go for a walk. Let's like make sure we're well fed. Let's make sure we're well rested and like, let's really tackle it.
I like
Cause
that.
I've
Yeah.
had issues like going backwards. I'm trying to like have a serious conversation in the middle of a period or something like that. And then it's just like, she's not trying to deal with that right now. She got something else going on, bro. Like just
Yeah.
like a little slight example. But
Yeah.
but you know what I'm saying, like, where it's like, it might not be the right time always
$1,000%.
to just talk about that thing, so but
I think that's great. I think that's solid. I could use that because I'll just be dropping it on like boom. Like what are we doing? So I think that's important. Yeah, Bree has said that plenty of times, like, so I think that's important for sure.
hey, I think these people I think they're about to have a party. I'm on this rooftop, I just wanted to show you, like, it's well, it's probably hard to see, it's probably still fuzzy, but that's our little skyline there in Denver, and
That
then
look nice.
over
Yeah.
here, look on this way, that's where the mountains are.
Yeah.
Um, my homie's right here, he's painting, let me show you what he's painting. Hold up. Show everybody. Huh? It's sideways right now. It's sideways? Alright, I'll show you. So, my homie's an artist, he painted this. It's
Ah, that's
flamingos,
nice. Yeah.
mad detail in that joint. It's
That's
like, what is the
nice.
size? Is this like 24, 24? Yeah.
Nah,
And he
that's
just had an
dope.
art gallery. Give them some
Alright.
privacy. Uh,
Yeah.
hey, but Ray, thank you for pulling up. You're like my first virtual guest on this podcast.
Alright,
I
I'm
only have
glad.
like 10. I want to have more. This is just like how it goes. Like that was pretty smooth and easy, wasn't it? You know what I'm saying? Drop a
Yeah, nah,
little
that
bit of
was cool.
wisdom.
Yeah, that was cool. You gotta do like 3, 4 people next time.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I have one where it was like one of my homegirls' birthdays parties, and it was like all of us in a circle. But
Mhm.
yeah, I want to get a couple of us on, and we could just do that. But Ray, is there any way, like, is there anything like your socials, anything you want to drop? Like, I know we got into your work a little bit. We'll probably get into that a little bit more in the future.
Yeah.
But is there anything you want to drop in reference, and I'll also put it in the description when I post the pod.
Yeah, probably just my, graphic design page, r.wash studios.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right,
for
dope.
sure.
All right, man.
Yeah,
Till next
man.
time.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Peace.
Alright, text me, man. Bye.
All right, for sure. Hey, just stay on for a second.
Alright.
All right, I'm gonna stop right now.